Welcome. Thank you so much for signing up for Children's Remedies free masterclass. If everyone wants to turn their cameras on so that we can be a community of students learning together, I would love that. I always love to see my students. I'm Michele Wildflower, the founder and alchemist for Nature's Mysteries Apothecary. We're celebrating 25 years in business. I'm also the director of education at my alternative medicine school, Nature's Mysteries Academy of Holistic Health. Students love our online certification program. One of our students had this to say: this was my first in-depth course in holistic health. Michelle's knowledge and the way she teaches the class is absolutely amazing. Not only do you learn about herbal medicine, but you learn its history from beginning until now. Michele brings lost knowledge to everyone who wants to learn about Mother Nature and her gifts. I highly recommend if you want to have a better understanding of herbal medicine or continue on your holistic health journey. So she really enjoyed the program. I'm also the author of the herbal textbook, Discover the Essence of Plant Medicine, the Five Principles of Life-Saving Herbs, Cannabis Edition. I was actually contracted to write that for the University of Natural Health as an herbal course for them. And in it, we actually profile 33 different herbs. Herbs for Children is one of the chapters actually in the book, in the course that we created. And if you're wondering why they asked me to write the course, about 9 years ago now, my husband had a triple hit of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they only gave him a 35% chance of curing it with their methods. They told him to get his affairs in order, and after hours and hours of research, I came up with an immune building protocol of about 20 different vitamins, herbs, enzymes, minerals, mushrooms, and we had it gone in 3 months, to his oncologist's dismay. And that's actually what the logo is for Nature's Mysteries Apothecary. Those are all the plants that we used to rid my husband's body of cancer 9 years ago, like I said. And I actually have took out the 8th chapter, which is the herbs for children, and now we have this book available for parents who aren't necessarily interested in learning all of the ins and outs of herbal medicine, but they would just like to learn how to treat their children and any ailments that they might have. In the book, I profile 7 different herbs. Today, we're going to go over some of them. And just to give you a little background on my parenting as well, I'm also the mother of 4 beautiful daughters and 3 gorgeous grandsons. And we used herbal remedies all throughout their lives for any of their childhood ailments. They're all adults now, not the grandkids, but the daughters are adults now. They're all very healthy, and they weren't on, conventional pharmaceutical medication. So we know that it can be done. And in the book, today we're going to explore the top 5 healing herbs for alleviating childhood ailments. We'll learn how to blend safe and effective medicines from nature that do not have debilitating side effects. We'll explore gentle ways to ease your children's symptoms while boosting their immune function utilizing herbal preparations. Immune compromising lifestyle choices that we may be making unknowingly that decrease our child's immune function will also be explored, such as sugar. Sugar can decrease our children's immune function, so making sure that they eat lots of fruits and vegetables so that their bodies have the nutrients necessary to fight off pathogens and invaders is very important. Not only does sugar decrease our immune function, but it also actually depletes our vitamins and minerals. So definitely, if you have a child who's immune compromised, making sure that they limit their sugar intake would be very important. And if you had a child who was under the weather or seemed like, their bodies were trying to fight off something, then you would want to make sure that they're, pretty much limit white sugar to like nothing, not just minimize it, but limit it so that it's not even part of their diet at all. And sometimes, when children aren't feeling good and it's hard to get them to eat, or it's hard to get them to eat the right foods, a good multivitamin is always a great choice. So I always like to talk about that with parents. So we'll go over that for a minute. A good multivitamin would be organic, first of all. So would be organic. I'm going to use different colored markers because this is actually going to help stimulate different parts of your brain. Sorry, I'm just going to close this door a little bit. It actually helps to stimulate different parts of your brain, which helps you to retain this information. And I always believe if folks are taking the time to attend a class, that they want to retain the information, right? Okay, good. So multivitamin, first you would want to make sure that it was organic. Okay, now the next thing that you're going to want to make sure of is that, sorry, my markers fell. The next thing you're going to want to make sure of is that it is fermented. So when we use fermented vitamins, it actually helps our bodies to absorb those nutrients more easily. So fermented, and in order for it to be fermented, it's going to have to be whole food, right? Because if it's synthetic, they're probably not going to ferment some synthetic molecules, right? So whole foods. So these are three very important things that we want to ensure when choosing a vitamin for our children. And one of my favorite companies is New Chapter. Can you see that? New Chapter. Mega Food is another good company. So those are two good companies that you can look at for finding some of the best vitamins, because like I said, it is important to learn about herbs and which herbs we can use to help our children alleviate some of those symptoms that they might experience. But if what we are doing in our everyday life is causing those symptoms, then if we could eliminate them, we might not even need the herbs, you know what I mean? And that's why in our course, our 12-week holistic health practitioner program, we don't even begin learning about the plants until we have learned so much about immune compromising lifestyle choices that people make, because unfortunately, oftentimes we're actually the ones who are making ourselves sick. I know, it's sad, isn't it? So a good multivitamin. And now let's say that you have a baby, and so you're wondering, how are you going to get that into your baby? So if you had a baby and you were breastfeeding, then any kind of nutrients that you are taking in, teas that you drink or vitamins, supplements, anything like that, good food that you're eating is going into the baby through your breast milk, as just as well as if you drank alcohol or coffee or caffeine or ate sugar or artificial dyes, colors, and preservatives, that would be going into the baby as well, right? So if you are looking, if for some reason you weren't able to nurse or breastfeed your baby because your milk supply was low, there are actually herbs that you can use. They're called galactagogues. And these herbs actually help your body to produce more milk and increase your milk supply. So some of them are marshmallow. Does anybody else know any? You can mention them if you know. Nettle is another one. Borage And these are also herbs that I wrote about in my book. And the last one that we spoke of is milk thistle. So these are herbs that you could make an herbal blend out of if you wanted to increase your milk supply. And if you don't breastfeed or nurse your baby and you use formula and you're looking for a better formula choice because you notice that the one that you have either has high fructose corn syrup or sugar or genetically modified corn or ingredients that you don't even know what they are, a great formula alternative is Earth's Best. Formula alternative is Earth's Best. And that's what we used for my grandsons when I would babysit them for my daughters if they didn't have bottles of milk, then we would use Earth's Best baby formula. Can you see that? Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay, good. All right, so you could also use seeds of anise, caraway, and fennel. Anise, can you see that? Okay. Caraway and fennel. So these are all galactagogues, and galactagogues are herbs that will help to increase your milk supply if you are a nursing mother. Okay. Another great idea for children is to not introduce dairy until they are 2 years old. How many of you have heard of that? Raise your hand if you've heard of that. Not to introduce dairy until 2 years old. And like I said, I have 4 daughters. 3 of them I birthed. One's older. She's my stepdaughter, so I didn't have as much input in her early years because I wasn't around. And so my 3 daughters that I birthed myself, 2 of them, I had 3 babies in 5 years, and 2 of them we did not give any dairy to before they were 2 years old. And then the last one, because the other 2 were older, they were older than 2 years old, and so they were allowed to have ice cream once in a while. And so it seemed hard to tell the one child that they couldn't have ice cream when the other kids were. And nowadays there's dairy-free ice cream, so it wouldn't really be a big deal at all. But when my girls were little 30 years ago, there wasn't dairy-free ice cream when you went out. So obviously we would get it at home, but I'm saying when we were out, that wasn't really an option. And sometimes we would bend the rules and we would let the youngest have the ice cream. And she actually now doesn't eat any dairy at all. And she feels like she's allergic to it. And she's the only one out of my 3 that I tried to limit before they were 2 years old. The other 2, like I said, we didn't give it to them. They don't feel real sensitive, but the youngest one, she actually does feel more sensitive. And, bovine milk fat is nowhere near appropriately composed for human babies. It's actually meant to grow a baby cow. So that's why sometimes there's causes obesity and other things. But some signs of dairy allergies that you might not be aware of, that's what I mean. So we could look up what herbs would help to alleviate these symptoms, but instead of being like the doctor when you go to the doctor's office and having them just prescribe something for you, if we found out that it was actually dairy that was causing these symptoms in our children, then we could just eliminate the dairy and these symptoms would fall away. So dark circles under their eyes, are a sign of dairy allergy. Throat clearing. My daughter used to do that all the time, like because they have like a little drip from the dairy. So throat clearing. And you might think that these are just like little quirks that your child has, but it actually could be a symptom of a dairy allergy. Runny nose, that's another one. And oftentimes, once our students see this list, they say, I had no idea that that was a symptom of a dairy allergy. I just thought it was, maybe a cold coming on or just something that, they just always had, but it actually could be for a reason. Congestion, if they're coughing all the time, constant cough, that's another one. Bloating, dairy can cause bloating, gas, sinus infections. She used to have sinus infections all the time as well. And at that time, I didn't know what I know now, so I had no idea that that's what it was. Even though I knew that, dairy wasn't good for children before they were 2 years old, I didn't know that what I was seeing exactly was a response from her body to the dairy. Postnasal drip is another one. And that's kind of like that constant cough you get because you have this constant drip. Diarrhea is another one. And oh, sorry, I think I spelled that wrong. Diarrhea. And ear infections is another one. Okay. And how many of you have seen that in your children? Raise your hand. Okay. Right. So maybe your child is allergic to dairy as well. And if you are seeing any of these symptoms that their body is displaying, then you might want to limit your dairy or eliminate it altogether. So building our children's immune system naturally without poisons and neurotoxins, our bodies know how to utilize and absorb plant medicine. Synthetic compounds, not so much. So this is why, when we try giving our child something prescribed by the doctor, we might see a lot of side effects because it's so hard for their bodies to absorb and just be able to synthesize those compounds. And they call them side effects, which is what it causes, but actually it's kind of a direct effect of the medication. The side effect would be if you actually got some benefit from it, right? And the medications that they're prescribing to your children have never been tested on children because that would be unethical and highly illegal, right? You can't test pharmaceuticals on children. So they're actually testing them on the children who they prescribe the medicines to because, like I said, they haven't been tested on children. So just something to think about. Now, how many of you know, or can you tell me, can you kill a virus with an antibiotic? Okay, so the answer is no, you can't kill a virus with an antibiotic. Antibiotics do not kill viruses. Do not kill viruses. Okay, so that's going to have to be something that is an antiviral, right? And there's many antiviral herbs. And actually, because that we know, because of the effect that antibiotics have on our internal terrain, we know now that after one round of antibiotics, that you should take probiotics for 2 years. Okay, sorry about that. Sometimes when I talk, I write what I'm saying instead of what I should be writing. Okay, so one round of antibiotics equals you should be taking probiotics for 2 years. 2 years of probiotic. And there are so many symptoms that not having having your microbiome the delicate balance of your microbiome be disturbed, there's many symptoms that could be caused from that as well. So between nutritional deficiencies and having your internal microbiome disturbed by antibiotics, these are, multiple ways that our children can be experiencing decreased immune function. So let's talk a little bit about the way that a virus works in the body. So it's not commonly known. Viruses such as HIV have incomplete DNA, which means that they're trying to steal some of your DNA to make their molecule complete. Eventually, the cell becomes depleted and bleached out. And when this occurs, the cell explodes, spewing the contents of the virus, which is spreading the disease. That's how the disease is spread. So, like I said, there are antibiotics, natural antibiotics that we can use, but those aren't only herbal or synthetic. Earthing or grounding, actually just having our children go outside and being barefoot on sand or mud or grass or the riverbed or a lake or the ocean, the forest floor, just connecting with the earth in a physical way. Just, the earth has an electromagnetic field that it's emitting, and it would make sense that if we don't feel that connection enough, that we could feel depleted. The same as if we spend too much time indoors, and then that can actually cause seasonal affective disorder, which is a result of a lack of vitamin D or full spectrum light. So again, these are things that our children could be doing, like spending too much time indoors, not being outside enough, and getting that full spectrum light that could be decreasing their immune function, when really we don't even, like I said, we don't need to come up with some herbal concoction for them. We just need them to try to spend more time outdoors, right? Get more exercise. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of talking. I'm a little bit thirsty. Okay, so some ways to improve immune function besides probiotics, like we talked about, would be echinacea. That's one of my go-tos. And you could either make a tincture or a tea. And you could either, if I was, for my girls, I always just got a tincture, and I would give it to them probably like 3 or 4 times a day, one dropper full. And so what I like to do is, so you take the one dropper full and you just put it in a little tiny bit of water so that they can like down the hatch, because it doesn't taste good. But then you give them a cup of water after that for them to drink. Whereas if you were to put the dropper full in a cup of water, they would have to drink that whole cup of liquid that they don't like the taste of. So if you just put it in a little bit, have them drink that, and then have them drink a cup of water after, kind of like a chaser, it'll actually help to remove that bitter taste from their mouth, and they won't feel, like, I don't want to drink this whole big glass of liquid that doesn't taste good. It's just that little bit, and then follow it with a glass of water. I like to make my tinctures with the roots of plants that I grew. And if you did use echinacea that you grew, you would want to make sure that the plants were at least 2 years old, the roots. And then you would just pack a jar full of the herb, and then pour alcohol on top of it and shake it every day. You could either put it in the sun or in a cool place, cool, dark place. People have different thoughts on that. You'll have to make up your own choice. And just shake it every day, making sure that you're putting loving intention in it, imagining your children being healthy, and giving the plant gratitude for its medicine that you're extracting. Colloidal silver is another great antibiotic that's natural. It's actually antiviral, antibiotic, antibacterial, antimicrobial, antiparasitic. It like kills everything in a test tube. But the only company that I would recommend getting that from would be Sovereign Silver. So that is Sovereign Silver, and that's their colloidal silver that you would be getting. And basically, it's just nanoparticles of silver, like actual silver. They used to actually use silver to purify water in the old days. They take a silver coin and put it in a water jug to filter it. And so silver has been used for a long time throughout the ages. People have known of its health benefits. However, if you've taken too much of it and the particle size isn't correct, it could actually turn your skin green. Now, my family's been using colloidal silver, and we still continue to for over 35 years. And our skin, as you can see, the only green on it I had put there, which are my tattoos. So nobody's green. And that's why I was saying the only company that I would trust would be Sovereign Silver, because they have nanoparticles that are very, 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 very tiny sized, minute particles, which is very important. So Manuka honey is also another great reliever of many different, if you were if your child had a sore throat or a cough, Manuka honey is a great alternative for any kind of over-the-counter cough syrup or anything like that. Helps to ease a sore throat. And the whole point is to let their body fight it as long as possible. And that doesn't mean that we want to let their fever get elevated or anything like that. But if you do let a child's fever break, which obviously I'm not saying get over 104 and endanger your child, nothing like that. But if their fever did break, the sweat that comes off of your child's body after they've broken a fever actually contains compounds in it that kill staph. So our bodies are really divinely intelligent and know exactly what we need. We just need to enable them to perform their function. And like I said, we want to keep our children comfortable. So that could mean cool compresses and nice warm teas and rubbing their feet or diffusing essential oils in the room, giving them tinctures here and there. But just because you see your child's symptoms stop doesn't mean that that's what's good for your child. Put it that way. So it's good for their body. Like, if you see, oh, they feel hot, they have a fever, you don't want to stop that fever and be like, oh, we need to give them something to stop the fever. You don't. Their body is doing its job. It's burning out the pathogen. And if you stop it from doing that, not only can the pathogen thrive more, but now you've given your child something that is a synthetic compound if it brings down the fever, such as like, uh, Benadryl or something like that, or children's Tylenol. I mean, so now their liver and their kidneys have to deal with all of the kind of synthetic molecules that are found in those compounds that our children's bodies don't know how to deal with, so they have to try to filter them out. So now not only is your child trying to fight off these pathogens, say if it's a virus or bacterial infection, something like that, but now their liver is actually being taxed by the medicine that you're giving them. So if you're utilizing herbal remedies, then you're actually boosting their immune function. You're giving their body antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial compounds that can help them to fight those pathogens or invaders that just make them stronger and manage that fever so that it doesn't get too high, but we don't eliminate it altogether. So my go-tos for immune boosting would be Echinacea golden seal combinations, like we said. And astragalus is another one that's a great go-tos for immune boosting. Okay, so Echinacea golden seal is a tincture that you can usually get together. So I would say Echinacea and golden seal tincture. And like I said, you're going to do that 1 dropper full. 1 dropper full 3 times a day in a cup of water. And you remember, right, what we said about just putting it in a little bit of water and then giving them a cup after. Astragalus, you could either make it a tea blend or a capsule, and then just, if the dose is 1 capsule for an adult, then you could cut it in half, something like that for a child, or just make a tea blend with 2 to 4 teaspoons of the herb to a cup water. Green tea is another great option. Yogi Tea makes a green tea kombucha blend, and you can actually get a decaffeinated one because generally green tea is caffeinated, but it's high in antioxidants, which help our bodies fight off free radicals. That's a great option. You can get it already in a tea bag, or you could just buy it green tea yourself and make a blend your own. Nettle is one of the most nutritious plants in the plant kingdom. So giving your child a cup of nettle tea every day is kind of like a multivitamin. And how natural is it, right? Because it's a plant that you could even harvest. Nettle is stinging nettle actually could sting you because of the little hairs on it that cause that reaction. But if you harvested it with gloves, or you just cut the stem and then you dried it upside down or put it on screens, once it's dry, it's not going to sting you anymore. So if you drank it in tea or something like that, which is what we did when my girls were little, and I still continue to drink it today, it doesn't sting you at all. So you don't need to worry about that. Chamomile is a little bit can be added to that tea blend to just settle them down and calm their nerves. It's a great nervine, and it's gentle, adds a sweet little sweet flavor, as long as you don't leave it steeping too long. If you leave it steeping too long, it can actually get bitter. So chamomile tea is always a nice blend. And remember, when using Manuka honey, that you would only use that for children over 1 year of age. Honey isn't recommended for under 1-year-olds. There's possible botulism, poisoning from bacteria found in the honey that the tender immune system cannot process until after 1 year of age. Happens rarely, but it is worth noting. So extraction, does anybody have any questions on that before we move on? Okay. So extraction is the art of drawing the healing compounds found in plants into a carrier, such as oil, alcohol, water, or vegetable glycerin. Some herbs, some put it in vinegar. Some herbs are eaten or prepared similarly to food in the same fashion, but when preparing herbs for the very sick or debilitated, extraction is the preferred route. So by removing the fiber and releasing only the beneficial components found in the plant or the herb, bypassing all of the waste, direct application of those fortifying compounds can be achieved without the effort of digestion, which can steal the body's energy away from healing during critical moments when the location of the available energy the body has is crucial, allowing it to direct itself into healing as opposed to the fires of digestion. Because of the multitudes of compounds found in herbs and volatile oil contents, the method of extraction can be critical to the viability of your medicine. So if through the extraction process you're eliminating all or any of the potent health benefits, then you're defeating your purpose, right? So some herbs should never be simmered, And others really require that gentle heat to release the extraordinary compounds. So this is where your personal research comes in. Perhaps one of the most important steps in blending your herbal remedy is your state of mind, which I mentioned before. So if you're upset with someone or just had a confrontation, then someone has wronged you in some way, this would not be the time to make medicine. Wait until you're feeling great, everything's happy. Not to say, if someone's sick and, you're feeling a little concerned about their well-being, that's different. I just mean if you're mad at someone, then you don't want to be angry when you're formulating your medicine. You want to make sure that you have a higher vibration and your frequency is level. So the simplest method is one method of measurements. Now, there are some folks who are very specific and like to have calculations very exact and minute, but there are others who aren't and using a little bit of this and a pinch of that. So this is called the simplest method of measurements. And whichever resonates with you is the way to go. There's no right or wrong way. But basically, the simplest method breaks recipes into parts instead of cups, ounces, or grams. So in this way, any herbal recipe can be enjoyed in a cup or on a larger scale. Instead of using cups or ounces, measurements are converted into parts, such as 2 parts hibiscus, 1 part dandelion, 3 parts parsley, something like that, so that you can size the formulation into the quantity that you need based on how long you're going to be using it for or how much you need. So some extraction methods are, because herbs have so many uses, there are many ways to prepare them for extraction. So some extraction methods include, can anybody tell me? So tinctures are one. Tea blends would be another. A simple, right? We just found out about that. So now we all know what a simple is. A decoction. Anyone think of another one? An infusion. And those could be solar or lunar. And then topical. You might be extracting those compounds for a topical application. So does anyone have any questions on that before we move on? Okay, so tincture is an herbal extraction into alcohol mostly, but glycerin could be used. And if you were, you making it for children or adults who are sensitive to alcohol. And this is usually more potent and powerful than tea because of its concentration. If frequent doses need to be given for treatment when out and about, say if you're, have to go shopping or something like that, a tincture is a convenient choice over having to make a tea blend every time. So like we said, you'll place the herbs in a jar, cover with alcohol. You could use 80 to 100% rum, brandy, vodka could also be used. And then you'll place it in a sunny spot, shaking it every day, allowing the sun's rays to extract the beneficial compounds into the alcohol. And you'll shake it every day for 2 to 6 weeks, which will disperse those molecules into the alcohol or glycerin. And you'll be directing your intentions towards healing, like we talked about. Then you'll strain it and compost the leftover plant matter and then pour into sterilized colored bottles and label. So the dose in most cases will be 1 to 2 dropperfuls in a cup of water, like we said. And if the symptoms are severe, this can be administered up to 3 times a day. For children, 1 dropper full. Toddlers, half of that would suffice. And if the taste is extremely strong, it could be added to juice. If you're wondering about the alcohol consumption of a child taking the tincture, the amount of alcohol that is actually left is very minute and does not have any effect on the child at all. But if it still feels uncomfortable too, you could squirt the dropper full into a glass of water and then let it sit for 10 to 20 minutes before you administer it to the child, and the alcohol will evaporate. So a tea blend would be one, if you were just making, a beverage, it would be 1 teaspoon of herb to a cup of water. Depending on the plant or herb that you're using, it might need to be covered during the steeping process to ensure no loss of volatile oils. But if you were using the tea as medicine, then larger quantities of herbs would be added. So, like I said, making these blends in quart jars and having them on hand instead of just making it in a little cup as you go along all throughout the day. If you made it in a quart jar, you would be have it on hand and be able to administer it throughout the day. So in this case, it could be 2 teaspoons of herb to a cup of water. Or if you were using leaves, it would be 4 to 6 leaves to 4 cups hot water. 4 to 6 leaves to 4 cups hot water. Okay, so, and then the dose again would be 3 times a day for a period of weeks until signs of improvement or stabilization are reached. And for children, you could use 3/4 of a teaspoon tea to a cup of water, and then take half of this tea, mix with equal parts before giving to your child. And most herbs are gentle and can be given a few times a day. So does anyone have any questions on that? Okay, well, that's about all we have time for today. In the book, we go over growing. I'm sorry, we do go over growing. But in this book, we go over decoctions, infusions, solar water infusions, solar oil infusions, simples, lunar water infusions, and lunar oil infusions. We also talk about the best oils for extraction and immune boosting and how that's great every time that they get sick, and as well as going over a few of the other herbs. Just remember, when, if we can remember, when our children start experiencing symptoms, to try to trace it back. So trace it back means that usually there is no isolated symptom, and unless it's the beginning of an acute illness, there's usually other symptoms that have been kind of building up or might have been displayed before. So if you try to trace it back, like if you know that your child is allergic to dairy, and they start, seeming like they have a runny nose or something, instead of thinking right away that a cold is coming on, try to think back, well, let's see, have they had any dairy? And then if you remember, oh, that's right, we were over at this person's house and they gave them a glass of milk, then maybe you don't need to start a 2-week regime of echinacea. Maybe, they just need to process that milk, get it through their system, and they actually are okay. Again, there's never anything wrong with boosting our children's immune function, but echinacea is only recommended for 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. So you wouldn't just use it for extended periods of time indefinitely. You know what I mean? And if you are interested in learning more, you can always purchase my Herbs for Children book. If you are interested in a group learning setting, We actually have our fall session, the second fall session, beginning November 4th. We'd love to have you join us. There's still spaces available. We have partial scholarships available, flexible financing options. This is a 12-week virtual holistic health practitioner program. The 13th week is the business class, Business Essentials. And in that class, we go over just things that you might want to make sure that you have in place before you start your practice, seeing clients, or open your apothecary. If you would like to set up a discovery call, you can always reach out at info@naturesmysteries.com or call me directly at 802-624-6540. Like I said, our next class begins November 4th. We meet once a week at 6:30 p.m. We'll be going over growing, harvesting, storing, preparations, and applications of 33 different herbs. There's over 150 recipes included. We've had over 75 students through the program so far. We've gotten great reviews. Everyone's loved the program. If you're an herb lover, we'd love to have you join us. Reach out today at info@naturesmysteries.com. Follow us on social media if you'd like to get updates. On TikTok, we're Nature's Mysteries Academy 12. On Instagram, we are Nature's Mysteries Academy. And on Facebook, Nature's Mysteries Academy of Holistic Health. Thank you so much for joining us today in our Children's Remedies Masterclass, where we explored immune-compromising lifestyle choices that we might be making that decrease our immune function, our child's immune function, as well as herbs that we can use to alleviate those symptoms. Thank you so much. Take care.